Anyway, I want to welcome everyone again. And now, Rabbi Norman is uh, somewhere else. He's officiating at a funeral out of town. So he will join us next week, I hope. Anyway, let me read the opening prayer for today. I'll do it in Hebrew. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asot b'divrei Torah. Amen.
Amen.
Well, last week Moses is still talking to God about please forgive the Israelites for what they have done creating the golden calf. And I thought it may be worthwhile to backtrack just a wee bit to go to it's Exodus 34, verse 8. And I think that would be a good place to start to just refresh our memory a little bit. And then we can easily go on from there. And I'm glad Rabbi Mary is with us because she can help us with some of the words again. And I really dig those glasses, Rabbi Mary.
And they're nice. I stole them from my friend in Israel.
Oh, that is cool. Anyway, let's David or any. I just want to know. Ricky isn't with us this morning, but who else has some? Gail, do you have a book that you can read from as well?
Yeah,
so we can bounce around for among the readers.
This is actually, we're starting with that line that we discussed beat to death last week about something. Anyway, okay.
Okay, David, I'll come back to you. Go ahead, Gil.
Okay, and Moses hurried and knelt on the ground and bowed. And he said, if I found favor in your eyes, my Lord, may my Lord go among us, because it is a stiff-necked people, and forgive our crime and our sin, and make us your legacy.
Okay, let's stop at that point again. Any comments? Some to maybe catch us up on things, and any questions about what we've read? Yes, David.
I'm thinking the phrase "a stiff-necked people." I think some people are using that maybe as an excuse, but others are just saying, well, we're your people, you were the chosen people, but we are stiff-necked and we have our own ways and we're not patient. Could you deal with it? Just wanted to make that comment. And
okay.
That's an unfriendly thing to say to God, but I think that's what he said.
God bless you.
Okay, God bless you. Oh, that's cute.
Bless you. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Gail caught whatever you had. Oh, it's you have to find something humorous once in a while. Anyway, yes, David, this term has come up so many times, and Rabbi Mary, when we translate Yisrael, or the Israelite people, some people have had different ideas as to the meaning of that.
Well, I see it, and in modern Hebrew we use it too. It's stubborn.
Right.
You know, that you cannot move anyway, but you stay on your thoughts. So it's stubborn. And I think that that's a good one to think about it, that if you say, you know, I always worshipped these little figures, I'm not going to move out of that way. So you can see it that way. But as one word, I use stubborn.
Yeah, I would tend to agree that that's a very good definition for being stiff-necked. So what makes, yes, Don?
Yeah, I'm sorry I missed last week. I hate it when I miss a week, but I'm trying to get this in perspective. So the great iniquity and crime that people committed was to make a molten god out of gold.
Yes.
Okay. And what God is requiring is that instead that they continue to slaughter animals at the altar on a regular basis. And so I have trouble in my modern perspective understanding why making molten idol justifies Moses killing 3,000 of his own people so they can get back to slaughtering sheep and goats and cattle every single week at the altar. I guess I get it, but and it's hard to digest. Thank you.
Okay, what is your understanding then, Don? What you said you got it. What do you mean?
Well, I get how the text is illustrating in simple examples. The text has to appeal to all the people. And so the stories are kind of fables, but still they have a lot of strength when they're told. And the idea is to get people back on track. But nevertheless, it's the proportionality, the perspective of what God is requiring in comparison to their supposed crime. It seemed to me that the crimes could have been corrected a lot more helpfully than killing 3,000 people. Come on, people, let's get back in the program here. So I struggle with that, and I do understand that what a 2,500-year-old story has to close everything together. But I still have trouble. All I'm saying is I do have trouble with the extremes.
And as the rabbis have said before, it's hard. We have to make a break in our thinking. Okay, that we cannot look at it through our modern eyes. To look at the past, they have, and to pass judgments on the behavior of the past. However, I tend to look at it a slightly different way. And before I call on Gail, I just want to say something here. Shouldn't we revel in the fact that we don't do that anymore? And we are recognizing that maybe that's doing a little too much, and maybe somebody at some point, I know some rabbis have said, well, if the days of the temple, if we can build a new temple again, we'll be able to go back to the old ways. Well, that would pose some difficulties in today's world. And I don't think very many people would be able to go back to the way things were done 2,000 years ago. I just don't think it would be that easy for people. And I think because it's no different than the discussion of slavery, behavior towards animals. Maybe we're evolving a little better by not doing that anymore. And so, but if we understand that was a way of life back then, maybe we can say, okay, we can pat ourselves on the back and we've come forward. We still have a long way to go, but we've made some advance. Let me call on Gail and then I'll come back to you, Don.
Sure.
And then Michael too.
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead. Yeah.
And I understand what Don's saying about sacrifices and, overreaction by God. And so, but psychologically, what is the most difficult thing to do?
Mhm.
It's to change your mind. When you are dug
right.
into a particular philosophy or political view or whatever it is, and it's hard to admit you've been wrong maybe for the last X number of years or weeks or days. Very, very hard. And I know that all of us have had discussions with friends about something and they're going, no way, no way. So
It changes. Yes, good, Don, and then Michael.
Yeah, I hear you and thank you for that. But as I said previously, God never says in the entire Torah, I'm letting you off the hook now. Use your own judgment, which is what we're doing here. We're using your own judgment. And it's only in this text here where God says to Moses, I'm walking out right now. You're on your own. I'll let you borrow my angel to lead you to Canaan, but I'm out. And that's the only point where God really lets us off the hook. And he never says, your judgment is better than mine. Of course, he can't say that.
Right.
But we're saying we know better now for some reason. I guess I'll maybe I'll put my confusion on my gravestone.
Okay, Michael, please.
As and in regards to the individual who sneezed, I would say this: a sneeze is like a fingerprint, like DNA. Everyone's sneeze is different, isn't it? And so I just throw that in. Anyway, what I get out of this is that this is just my way of saying that this is a lesson for all time for all Jews, and it's the philosophy in this is really well noted, because in all of our festivals and holidays, it's repeated every year. In a certain time, and it's a reminder, and it's a very, very important. Some things are a little bit more important that we get out of this than others, but this one is a real winner, and it's directed on paying attention to God, lend him your ear, and follow his rule, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. And so that's what I take away from this.
Well, yes, that is a very traditional viewpoint, and I understand that, Michael, and that's a good one. I appreciate you throwing that into the mix of the discussion. Very important.
Thank you. I didn't know how you were going to take it, but I just went for it.
I like to argue both ways. So, there are lots of, because when there are different schools of thought, it's better to recognize the different schools. That they all have something of value. Yes, Rabbi Mary.
Okay. Let me go to a statement that's done in literature called Sin and Punishment. And this is what we're talking about. Is the sin so terrible that he has to kill 3,000 people? Am I right, Don?
That's a good part of it, Rabbi, yes.
Okay. Now, first of all, let's say that the Ten Commandments, let's say that the Ten Commandments is the constitution of us given by God. And the first thing in that constitution is we the people. No, I'm sorry. In the constitution, it says, I'm your God, and you should not have other gods to bend and to worship. So it was written, guys, couldn't you read? Maybe not. But so it was something that was established. It's not that they all of a sudden did something, oh, we didn't know. It's just, if you break the law, you can say, I didn't know till whatever, and you are going to be punished anyway. So that's one thing. The second one, what I would like to pose to the group is, when you or your child or your grandchild or your neighbor, whoever, does something wrong, that you think is something wrong, and you want to teach them not to do that anymore. Now, my question is, do you think that the punishment is the best way to do it, to stop that behavior?
Do I? No. No.
So what would you do?
I don't believe in education.
Okay.
So
I participated in a group that was based on the psychologist Adler, in which they demand, what they say is natural consequences. For example, mom tell the kid, stop leaving your bicycle outside because someone might take it. He leaves it outside. And every day she says, okay, you know what I'll do? I'm going to ground you for 3 days because you left the bicycle. Okay, after 3 days, he keeps leaving the bicycle. But if someone will steal the bicycle, that's the natural consequence of leaving it out. That might work much better. So here, the punishment that we were given maybe is not healthy enough for us to believe that we should worship this God and not this God. So it's a conundrum. As Marty said, some people believe that, some people believe that. Now, since I take the Torah as a story, so in my story, God gets very angry and it kills them. It grounds them. It kills them. That's in the story. And as Marty said, we're talking about an era that the lives of people, not like for us, were less worthy than worshiping another God. So we are here in a place that we cannot get an answer. We can get angry, we can get upset, we can get all kinds of things. But let's take it within the story. And with this, the story is absolutely right that these guys will be punished by breaking the first law of the commandments. And I spoke too much now, so anyone else?
It sounds good. Okay, Don, make it quick so we can move on ahead.
Yeah, this isn't in counterpoint, but I recall my very first flight instructor on my very first lesson said, here's lesson number 1. The law of gravity is unforgiving and the ground is hard. And I always thought, that's education. So.
I was just going to add one thing, and
That's
that
natural,
is,
yeah.
I agree with Professor Adler, Dr. Adler. But more than that, more than telling people what they should do, they have to see what you do, okay, and how you behave that is a stronger
That's
teacher.
true.
And so, that's all I can say.
That's true.
It is, so, but I think, and it's just my thinking here, that mankind has moved away from many customs from in the past, and some of them are good. Some of the advancement is good. Some is bad. What I think is good, you may think is bad, and vice versa. But the fact that we're moving in a particular direction may also be a way of teaching others, and maybe God is watching. And if God is watching, maybe God can learn too, just like in the discussions that he's had with Abraham and Moses. Yes, Gail.
I think our species by nature is very stubborn, very stubborn.
Mm-hmm.
The first example I can think of is war. We still start wars.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen them come, we've seen them go, and still we keep doing it over and over and over again.
That's right.
So I think just by nature, we're very stiff-necked. And as a general species, I'm not just saying Jews, but
Sure. I happen to understand what you're saying. Yes. Yes, Amy.
I notice more and more that I am resistant to change. And I think that's where our stubbornness comes, because change takes you out of your comfort zone. So I think we understand where we are now, but if we're asked to change, we don't know what that's going to be like.
Right. I always default to my grandmother, because she was born in the days of the horse and buggy. And she lived to a ripe old age to see man walk on the moon. And think about all the changes she saw during her years. Okay. And it must have been very disquieting to her in older age. And maybe that's why she sort of removed herself, and we had to force her to get out and be with us. But, it's an important thing that you said, Amy. Yeah, Michael, and then Gail.
It's one thing to watch the change and to see it, and another to participate in the change.
Mm-hmm.
See? When younger people, I'll use myself an example. It was easy for me to leave. When I was 18, after high school, I left New York City, and my parents, and we talked about it, and I made my way to Hollywood, California. And my parents and my brothers, they didn't like that change, because they wanted me home. I was good with it. I was still loving to my parents. I didn't leave them because I didn't like them. I just wanted a career where I thought I could find a better career, and I did. And so it was easy for me. And when I look back, I'd say, how did I do that? How did I bum around and make my way and do this and that? I couldn't do it now. I need, when I get in a car to drive, I have to have somebody with me. What can I tell you? So it's the in my opinion, at least, getting older, the older people, it's very difficult to make that change. So that's why I say to do it and to participate in the two different things. It's interesting to watch it go by. It's an amazing thing. But then to be involved in it, that's quite something else, I think.
Okay. Now, after this discussion, Michael, that was excellent. After this discussion, Now you can understand what the Israelites are going through. How much of a change do they have to make? They know something about God. They know something about Abraham, Isaac, okay, and Jacob, and the story of Joseph. They know that they lived among the Egyptians. They adopted some of the Egyptian ways. We've had those discussions. And now they're on their own. And now they're being asked to change yet again to something they're totally unfamiliar with. So you can understand what's going on in some of their minds because we have just expressed that. Okay, in what everyone was saying, from traditional all the way to let's go full speed ahead and see what's new and explore. Very, very, very difficult assembly of people. Yes, Gail.
Okay. So the other day I was watching the news and Neil deGrasse was on. Now, I don't know if you know who he is, but
Yeah.
he's okay. And he's very sharp. And what came up was change.
Mhm. It's inevitable.
He said, people that predict what's going to happen in the next 100 years are on a fool's errand because the speed of change in our day, we're not going back to Israel.
That's right. It's increasing.
He said, we go through 30-year total changes now.
That's right.
That's how fast things are changing. So we're having to adapt much more quickly than they did back
Yes.
then. And we think Israelites had problems. He said people are on a fool's errand if they think that they can predict what's going to happen in the next 30 years. He said, because just look back 100. It's amazing, absolutely amazing.
And when you reach that 30-year point, the next series of change will be condensed to 20 years and 10 years and so forth. And it becomes and that one of the problems that you can think of, okay, as that will always recur will be the problem of those who do not want to change because of the security that we spoke about. And you will also have those that eagerly accept the change, okay, and want to see and explore faster and faster. And there's no easy answer. No easy answer. Yes, Rabbi Mary.
I just want to propose to think, okay, all the changes that you have spoken about, I absolutely agree. But I'm asking, do you think that values, core of values, need to change and change? And I'm not talking about rituals. Please, let's separate value from ritual. The values are going to change, Gail, need to change. Amy, all people find it very difficult to change. Maybe they have a reason not to.
Excellent point. And the thing is, okay, and that's what we're going to hear again as we read the next. We haven't gotten quite there yet, but we read this, and the same thing about the temple is going to be repeated again and again and again. There's a reason for it, and we will come back to that reason later after we finally finish with the final readings of the temple. Okay? But it's very important because it's the values. If you think of a small group of people, okay, Jews in general, we have been called, and we've given ourselves hints. We've been called the people who remember. We are the people who never forget. We are the people of the book. Okay. And those are our core values. We may discuss them, we may question them, but the core values remain. And maybe what we're now discussing, we're going to be going back into that very shortly, but it's the core values. So we have sort of summarized everything that in what we've read, just thinking about stiff-necked people and core values. What do you have if you want to get through life? You want to choose a partner for life? You have to resort on your core values. And it's very hard. There are a lot of pressures. There are a lot of pressures that constantly are pulling people in different directions. And things change. But maybe it's because core values have changed in one or the other person. And that's another way of looking at why core values are important. But the world has changed a lot over the 3,000 years that we go back in time for what we're reading. And so the world has really changed a lot, but these core values have survived. Yes, Gail wanted to say something, and then Don.
Just quickly, when you're talking about core values, could you also use the term your perspective has changed?
Yeah, but your core values can still be part of you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, Don, and then Helene. Don, can I ask Helene first?
Sure.
To do it, and then we'll come to you. Helene,
Sure. Helene.
Helene, what did you want to say?
I say, as an old person, I'm listening very carefully about core values. The question is, what delights you? What delights you? What delights you? Where do those delightful feelings and values come from? And when you are comfortable, if you're comfortable with your own core values, I don't care how much change there is out there, and God knows there's change. Your core values can keep you strong. And say to yourself, that's not me. I know who I am. And I think if we get to know who we really are as we age and what we will not give up for anything, then you have some peace.
Good way of putting it. Very good way of putting it. Don.
Well, core values they do change over time. I mean, there are plenty of people who believe their core values are racially based. They're racially based, and they will not deviate from that no matter what. But I contrast what we think our core values are with obedience. And obedience to the law, we may not understand, and it may make us feel terrible. And that, to me, that's always the balance that has to be maintained. Is do we remain obedient to our law, or do we obey what we think our core values are, which are two different things to me?
Yes. That's why I said not about rituals, and I'll include them. You're absolutely right. Not about obedience, because obedience you'll question, and usually you are going to question based on your own beliefs. Do I have to follow the law of not eating shrimps? So, the core value is to eat or not to eat? No. It's something that's deeper. And I think that Elaine put it very nicely, know who you are. And the rabbi said in the Talmud, and know who you are, and in front of whom are you standing, and in front of whom you're going to give the din, you're going to be judged. So we're talking about a sphere that's different of this God with a whip and killing, and that's not about that. It's about, do you think that Judaism or humanity or the things that Gail posed, that people are born with this need to fight, those are core values. Do you think that the humans are more valuable than your house and your car and so forth? These are core values. And some people are going to questions. You're absolutely right. The word perspective, my guru says, a way of knowing. That's how we know. And you're absolutely right. I mean, values can be questioned and sometimes really change. Ask all the people that are converting to Judaism, why are they doing that?
Okay, it's an open-ended question. I guess there are no takers. However, even Shakespeare addresses this. In Hamlet, Polonius, to thine own self be true. Okay, so this is nothing, this type of discussion is not new. It has been discussed through the ages, but it's a very important thing. But on occasion, we do have to adapt to circumstances in order to survive.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And
yes.
that's the monkey wrench that gets thrown into this
Yes.
whole discussion. That
absolutely.
That in order to survive, you have to be able to adapt. What is good one
Yes.
day may not be good the next day, and you have to think, is there another way, a better way that I can do it? And you just have to, it's by trial and error. You see what works best for you, but what works best for you may not work for those close to you or other friends and family. It doesn't, it's very unique. But if you add it all up, you see a general trend of different ways of adapting to the circumstances.
That's what I was going to say. It's adapting. It's all about adapting to the new ways and new policies. And it's also not about also surviving, but about keeping up the happiness of your life. Don't let that falter. Don't let it fall down. And in order to keep that up, that way of life that you're used to, you have to learn some new things and readjust your life.
Yeah. And that's very true. Yes, Gail.
That sounds all well and good, but again, right. I'm going to go back. People really have to admit that they, something isn't right and change. And some people absolutely cannot do it.
Yeah.
I've got a relative that, trust me, nothing's ever going to change. Never. I mean, black is white and white is period.
No,
no discussion.
But think about the time of the Inquisition, the time of the Marranos, the time of the people that they could be killed or they had to convert. So
Yeah.
that's the situations that Marty is talking about. So
That's
it's
right.
a very difficult question.
Yeah. Yes, Don.
Yeah, coming back to core values, and I hesitate because I don't want to open another can of worms here, but I attended the Wanda Woloski funeral last week, and actually I saw Michael sitting behind the pianist giving instruction. But the musical piece that concluded the service was the theme from Exodus,
Mm-hmm.
which, and it made me wonder, so it's all about the land of Israel. And is Zionism a core value of Jews now? And I know that can take us off onto another 10-year study, but it seems like right there, front and center, out of all potential core values. And it's still, Jews are so divided on that topic.
Of course. But you name it today, if you name any topic, there will be multiple opinions in a huge spectrum. But the song said how it ends, the final phrase, this land is mine.
Land.
That's right. This land is mine. Doesn't say ours. Everyone is saying mine. Even in the chorus. It's my land. It's what you feel. And it's how you adapt to this new situation. How are you going to get through it? So, yeah, okay. Helene has her hand up again. Yes, Helene.
The only people I know at my age who are comfortable with this believe so totally that what you just said was true, and their belief in what God has said to the Jewish people, the Ten Commandments. If you are really working on the Ten Commandments and you believe in God, that He gave that to us, we are special. I make no excuses to anybody. Jews were given this magnificent role. And if we can believe that God is watching us, God is talking to us, God is smiling and God is frowning, because if we allow any of those rules that God gave us to disappear, trouble will come.
Mm-hmm.
So the job is to go back and say, what do I really believe in? Who am I? Is God part of my life? And do I hear it? And it's pretty darn complicated because
Sure.
in this world, it is not very godly. This entire world is a mess. And how do we adapt to it? And how do we live in a messy world? For me, the only way is to go back to the Ten Commandments. And when I do that, my life is peaceful. But that's me. Thank you.
Thank you, Helene. Very, very profound. Marcia, you were applauding. So let's hear from Marcia.
There is just one more thing, Marty. I just watched a movie. We had the Jewish Film Festival here, and there was a movie called Monticello, The House of Jefferson.
Right.
And Jefferson signed to release the slaves. He signed and he proposed and he believed, and he had slaves. So you are holding two things in the same place. We say in the Pirkei Avot, we say, Tovel v'sheretz beyado. Like he goes to the mikveh to purify, but he holds it as sheretz. A sheretz is like a shrimp, all those creatures that you cannot eat. So he is holding this forbidden thing and is purifying himself. So he has two things that don't meet each other. Someone said, I think it was you, Marty, are you standing by or you are doing it? So this is a very difficult question.
Yeah, there's no easy answer for this. People a lot smarter than this group have debated this. Okay, it goes back in philosophical writings since forever. Yeah. Now, the reason I wanted to ask Marcia, okay, Marcia is an artist in many different ways. And she's always very quiet, but her mind is constantly going. So, Marcia, what is your opinion of this discussion from an artistic point of view?
Well, I think we're divided. I think we live one life and we think of another. And I listened to Halid, and I said to myself, isn't it wonderful somebody has the ability to put these thoughts in front of us and to open them and to digest a little. So I thanked her by clapping. But thinking of myself, I think that we are divided because we have values, but we live in a world that doesn't have too many. But we still have to live in it. And we also have to make ourselves comfortable in it. So it's a challenge.
It is.
And I think that we, as a community over 85, have a lot of problems with this. But I come here to open up old problems and look at them in a nice way. So I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And David, you usually have some comments too about this, and you've been listening very quietly.
Well, thank you.
What do the stars tell you?
The stars tell me that there needs to be something, and this was way off topic, but there needs to be something to which you aspire. There needs to be something other than the daily news cycle, than paying the bills or doing your taxes. And for me, that's is gazing at the stars. There needs to be something beyond all that. To me, it's the night sky. To Gene Shoemaker would have been the history of the Earth, the geological history of our planet. And we all need, for Michael, it's music. And for a lot of us, it's music. And I was so happy this morning when after 3 or 4 days, KUAT-FM finally went back on the air again.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was so pleased to hear that.
I was
We all
hoping.
have to have something.
Yes.
I guess that's what I'm getting out of this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But
Thank you,
Yeah, I
David.
thought it's
Thank
my
you.
radio. Thank you.
Well
So
put,
now-
David. Thank you.
So now there's another element that has been left out of the discussion. When we think in terms of of the past and the present, how do we, when we have an idea about the future, what does that thought represent? And nobody has said anything about it.
Hope.
Very good. Very good, Anita. That is the whole concept here. Why do these words that we take on as, and I hope I'm getting it straight, core value, they've allowed us to survive, but they also give us a sense of hope for a good future, whatever good means to each individual. Because when you look towards the future, that's a sign it's an expression of hope. If you think about that, you'll understand. Yes, Helene.
The word that is not used here very often is love.
Mm-hmm. That's the next, that's excellent.
And we are all old, the question of love must be addressed as we age and as we face death. And nobody talks about death, but I do. And absolutely crucial for me, for you do your thing, kids. But for me, knowing more and more that love, the more love that I have and that I give, will ensure a beautiful, quiet death. I believe that. I believe that God wants us to love Him, each other, but ourselves too. And we never talk about ourselves. Do we really love ourselves? My goodness, would someone answer that?
It's a good point. That's an excellent question. So I'm going to modify that question a little bit, if I may. When we think about the 10 Commandments, which is the topic of our discussion, and this stiff-necked people, and we're thinking in terms of where do we go from here? What Helene just told us is crucial in understanding hope. Because if you can have it go the other way, if you don't have a sense of love for yourself and for others, and to see them get through the trials and tribulations that the rest of the book is going to be about. So Helene hits the nail on the head. Amy, and then back to Helene.
I guess Marty and Helene, I find that I'm very self-critical, and I think a lot of people are. They see the imperfections and maybe magnify them in themselves and don't love themselves because they wish they were something better or something different or something improved. So for me, that's always been a struggle.
It's a difficult struggle, and I understand it.
I
We go
think
through that from time to time. Yes.
I would like to pass on a quote by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. You know Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, she brought hospice to this country. She ended up dying. Ended up being my friend because she believed in my work with intergenerational. And she ended up dying unhappy until she learned that she could give love and she could give everything to children who were dying, anybody, but she could not take in love for herself. just what you said. Amy, she could not understand how to do this until she got sick, terribly sick in her old age, and had to suffer, and eventually learned from a brilliant man. She wrote a book that until she can take in love for herself from her family, from a dog, it doesn't matter. If you can love yourself, you will be in a much better place when you die.
Good words. Good words.
Well, it's not easy. I agree. It's not easy, Amy. I know what you're saying. But the truth is, your choice. You live with, I know I had to live with guilt. I had to live with anger. I had to live with all that stuff until I said, I'm going to learn how to love myself. And that's my job right now.
Good one. Good points. You help us out very much all the time, Helene. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Don? Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Helene. And I would just add that there's something very closely connected to love, loving ourselves, and that's forgiving ourselves. Because it seems to me as we get older, we realize we've been blaming ourselves unjustifiably. And if we blame ourselves, then we transfer that and blame others. And the greatest punishment would be to go to our graves without learning how to forgive ourselves and then transferring that to those. We go through life every day, we're offended by something. I can't get through a single day without feeling offended by something. And I have to keep catching myself because I don't have neither the power, I don't have the power to be perfect. And so not being able to be perfect, I have to forgive myself because I'm going to just keep making terrible mistakes and harming people. And I have to correct it every single day because it won't go away. And so I think in Judaism must be the only major religion that does not have an afterlife, and it's theology. So when we think about dying, it's a little different than Christians or those in Islam, those in every religion really, about what happens when you die.
Hello, Chris.
And so
Yes.
the very first commandment in the Bible is be fruitful and multiply.
What time would you like to go?
I read that as being, okay, it's an end for us as individuals, and so we have no choice but to be fruitful and multiply. Otherwise, everything disappears. So that's a huge burden to learn to forgive ourselves and to have been fruitful. It's enough to work on forever. So that's kind of long-winded. Thank you.
Okay. I know. Yes. Okay. I see several different people with hands up. Marsha is waving frantically. So let me call on Marsha first and then Amy.
I want to thank people for sharing because that's what I feel when I come here. I'm learning and I'm sharing, and sometimes I'm taking notes and go back and read those words. But I have to say goodbye because an angel is coming up here who knows how to fix things. So we depend upon these angels. And so thank you and a good morning and a good day because we've been exposed to some wonderful things this morning. So thank you.
And thank you, Marcia. Have a great weekend, what's left of it.
Right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I think Amy had her hand up also.
Don said something that really intrigues me. Because I'm not Jewish, he knows more, all of you know more than I do about Jewish beliefs. So I want to ask Rabbi Mary what the faith believes after one dies. I was not aware that the Jews did not believe in an afterlife. So this
Right.
surprises me.
Yeah, we don't believe in afterlife. What we believe, I mean, this is a difficult question when you say Judaism. We, the Reformed Judaism, does not believe that the bones are going to come together and get to their promised land. The very Orthodox people do that, and they like to their bodies to move to Israel because these are going to be the first resurrected, is that the word, with their bones, but what's interesting, Amy, and I'm glad you asked that, because we talk about Ba'olam Abba, next world. It's a very interesting thing that we talk about it, and Marty started talking about something to do with future, and we say next world. But I can sit here and interpret that and talk metaphorically and so forth. But the way that I know, and not much, about Christianity in a way is that there is another world, and that there is another world up and there is another world down. We don't have that. We don't.
So when the Messiah comes, will the bones gather together and rise up or not?
Yeah, those that believe in that, that's what it is. They put the bones together, they go up, and everyone is going to go to the promised land and live happily after. But not, and there are stories about God putting your behaviors on a scale and see where are you going. But these are, yeah, but these are fables. These are stories that come from literary background. And regarding the Messiah, I just will say, with my grandchild, he was 3 or 4, and he was quoting his mother all the time. And he was in Sunday school, and they said, what about the Messiah, the Mashiach? Is the Mashiach coming or not? And he said, the Messiah, the Mashiach, the Messiah is an idea. That's what this little Pisher told. And I could not agree more.
That's, oh, that was good. Yes, Gail.
I'm just going to say, I don't concern myself with death because I don't know where I was 100 years ago either. I'll be 100 years from now. And does it matter? No, it doesn't matter. It'll be what it'll be.
Yeah.
And again, I get back to, Helene talks about love. I use the word compassion. I believe everything is connected. Okay. And that's everything. And I'm talking about ants and microbes and me and you and whatever. Everything is connected. So if I have compassion for someone, a person, or an animal, if they're happy, then I will be happy because they're not going to be doing bad things. For instance, someone like Putin, who is kind of a disgusting person, he's disgusting. I wish him happiness. Because if he is truly, truly happy, he will not do the things he's doing. Okay? So that's my point of view. But again, as far as death and before and whatever, I made a stardust and I'll be stardust again, and it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter.
Yeah. But while we're here, it does.
Thank you, Gail.
Thank
Thank you. You said it very well.
Yeah. And it was a good, it was well stated. Yes, David.
Yes, thank you. I think I like listening to what Rabbi Mary was saying, and I think that she may be harking back to Ezekiel with the story of the dry bones. And I
Yes.
think that story is very appropriate. And I realized that
Yes.
when I was at Masada last time I was in Israel. And the idea of the dry bones coming back together again to forming a new state of Israel.
Mm-hmm.
And not sure that I believe that, but I think the story and the story is wonderful.
I wish Mark were here because I would ask him to talk a little bit about the soul. Because from the Kabbalistic standpoint, Mark has his master's degree in all of this. He would be saying that although we do not go on, the Kabbalists feel that the soul, you have taught the soul something. For the next time the soul is implanted in someone else. I'm shortchanging, I've cut a lot of corners here, but from the Kabbalistic standpoint, we do not own our soul.
Right.
We're teaching our soul things to help it in the future.
Right.
Please, Gal.
Okay. So again, and this is only me. If I made a stardust and I do whatever I do in this life, and I become stardust again, I will in fact become other things or a thing simply because I will reform into another thing. Now, whether who knows what it'll be, I have no control over that. Unless I believe in karma, which sometimes I have days when I do, days when I don't. But it's so much is out of your control.
Sure.
It really is. You haven't asked to be born. It just happened. Somebody put the stardust together and made me. Okay. Something. Chemistry. I don't know. Success through chemistry. So I'm not sure why people are so concerned about some things that they have no control over. Relax.
It's a good point. That's right. But how you treat others gives you a good feeling today in the world you're living in. Afterwards, what you have passed on to others.
Right.
That is what is important.
But showing compassion. Now,
That's right.
Helene uses the
And
word love.
caring.
Love is, to me, is another. I don't know. It's a little different. But compassion to me is something I can seem to come up with in a pinch. I may not be able to love unconditionally, but compassion, yes, I can do that.
Yes, Rabbi Mary, and then I have a question for Rabbi Mary.
When I go to memorials and funerals and people ask about the soul, my answer, that's, I don't know what the soul is, but I say the soul is what's left from the person that passed away. Meaning how this person touched you. And I ask the people to think, not what this person left in the world, that's too theoretical. But I ask, think about how this person touched you. And there is a silence in the room usually of reflection. And I think that that's what it's going to be. This is the soul. This person, when I was starving, gave me food. And I remembered that. That's the soul, the action. And I agree, Gail, when people talk about love, Eileen, I always question, what exactly is that? What is it? And now Gail pointed out to one of the qualities that they define, and it's compassion. I use a lot the word caring, but those are very philosophical and very questions that we ask all the time, especially when we get older.
Don, you have the floor, and then I'm going to get back to Torah. Okay.
Okay, I'm going to just follow the thread that Gail started about, so we're all chemistry. Back in 1975, when genetic engineering suddenly happened, and it was suddenly proven that you could change an organism, you could change the genes, make it into something else. And there was all the genetic scientists got together in Asilomar, California, a big conference. And after much arguing, they agreed to have a moratorium on this science until it could be shown to be under control. But it seems to me we are in an incredibly precarious situation as Jews and as humans, because it's waiting in the wings. We're scientists right now could reprogram what we are, and all these behaviors that we don't like about ourselves could be engineered out. It's not science fiction. I mean, it's just waiting for it to be politically correct. And so all these thousands of years that Judaism has been trying to improve human behavior and make us love each other better and make us stop doing horrible things to each other could end up being chemistry. It's what's really scary is that the center for this development with much fewer restraints is Israel. Israel has a huge genetic engineering program going. And right now they're trying to engineer out the so-called Jewish diseases. But we may be the generation, the last generation before that happens. So I don't know what responsibility. As usual, I'm off on this tangent here. I'm sorry, but we may be the last generation before that starts to happen. I'm wondering if we have a way to confront it.
I am hoping that there will. As Helene says, if
I have to leave, but
okay.
the word comes to me and I will share it with you. It took me so long in my life to learn to forgive myself because I couldn't really love myself until I asked God to forgive me for everything I did wrong. So for that, I'm going to have to leave.
Thank you with your kind words and wisdom.
You're welcome.
See you next week, Helene.
Yes, yes, yes. Bye-bye. I love every one of you, and each of us will die differently. Each of us will do our own thing, but love and forgiveness and hope, what else you want? So enjoy your day.
Thank you. You too. Well, now we ended it on a very good note because love encompasses hope. And let's see what the next reading will be. So, David, you take it away. Read verses 10 through, well, just go ahead and read. I'll tell you when to stop.
Okay.
So we can make a little headway for today.
Okay. And he said, Behold, I make a covenant. Before all thy people I will do marvels, such as have not been wrought in all the earth, nor in any nation, and all the people among which thou art shall see the work of the Lord, that I am about to do with thee, that it is tremendous. Observe thou that which I am commanding thee this day. Behold, I am driving out before thee the Amorite, and the Canaanite, and the Hittite, and the Perizzite, and the Hivite, and the Jebusite. Take heed to thyself, lest thou make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land whither thou goest, lest they be for a snare in the midst of thee. Thus ye shall break down their altars, and dash in pieces their pillars, and ye shall cut down their asherim. For thou shalt bow down to no other God, for the Lord, whose name is jealous, is a jealous God. Lest thou make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land, and they go astray after their gods, and do sacrifice unto their gods, and they call thee, and thou eat of their sacrifice, and thou take of their daughters unto thy sons, and their daughters go astray after their gods, and make thy sons go astray after their gods.
Okay, that's good. We'll stop there. And let's go back and let's unpack this a little bit at a time. Okay, so God is saying that in verse 10, I hereby make a covenant. Okay. What is God really saying? Yes, David.
I have a feeling that God might be referring back to the original covenant he made in Genesis. And after the disaster of the destruction of the first set of tablets, God is finding it necessary to remake that covenant, to do a new one with amendments so that the Israelites will follow their souls and follow the will of God.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else? Yes, Don.
I'll say in advance that this section of Exodus kills me because part of the covenant is the massacre of all those tribes. And so I'm just going to back off and restrain myself.
Okay. Okay. You'll have plenty of time to repeat that because it comes up again and again. Yes, Gail.
Well, I have to agree with Don. God is giving permission to make war, and I'm not comfortable with that. So.
Okay. Well, we've moved ahead. That wasn't my question. Nobody answered my question. What does it mean to where it says, I hereby make a covenant? What is God really saying with that?
I'm understanding.
Okay, Michael, and then David.
An understanding.
What is it based on?
I'm just not there.
Okay. Well, we were discussing, put it into the discussion. Your answer is very close to this. What were we discussing? All of this, what Gail said, what Rabbi Miri said, what Amy said, what Don said, what David said, and even Michael said before in the earlier discussion. Why is God changed instead of destroying the Israelites. He is going to now make a covenant.
I have a thought.
What were the key words that we discussed for the past hour and a half?
Forgiveness.
Forgiveness. Another
And
one.
love.
Love. What else?
Compassion.
Compassion. That's right. So that's why. So his decision was changed by showing, by asking all of the better qualities to come out in the discussion from hey, yeah, we do bad things, but we also do good things. Let's focus on the good things, love us and everything. Let's look at the better qualities that you have. So yeah, Michael, go ahead.
A second chance. That's what it seems to me.
It is a second chance. It is. Yes, Amy.
A covenant is a promise.
Yes.
An
And it's a
agreement.
hope for a new
Agreement.
future. Right. David, you had your hand up before. No. Okay. So that's the basis of coming up with a new covenant. He could have said, no, you people are too stiff-necked. That's it. I'm not going to listen to you, Moses. That's it. But God is giving us, as Michael puts it, a new chance, new hope. So God is saying, I have faith in you. You can do it, but you have to keep trying. If you don't keep trying, bad things will happen. That came out in our discussion too. So I think that that's the basis of his making this statement. Now he says, he makes a statement here. God says, before all you people, I will work such wonders as have not been wrought on all the earth or in any nation. And all the people who are with you shall see how awesome are the Lord's deeds, which I will perform for you. So, what is God saying here?
I was wondering if my mind has often wondered about this. What would God have done if, when Moses went back up to Sinai and got the second set of commandments and came down, and he found out that his people had again worshiped something else? Maybe not a golden calf, maybe a radio or a phonograph or a book or something else other than God. If they had done it again, would he have forgiven them us a second time?
Excellent point. And I'm glad you brought it into the present. Okay. Yes, Grace.
My connection is not real good, so I may not be able to hear what I'm about to say. Throughout this reading, I'm seeing God's, I think the message I'm getting is that you're going to make mistakes. There's going to be grief. There's going to be death. There's going to be wars. There's going to be confusion. There's going to be indecisiveness, but never lose hope, because I'm exposing you to this so that you know what may come in your future, throughout your lives, throughout every generation. Where is there not conflict? Where is there not war? Where is there not death? Where is there, not any of, when he says, I will create wonders such as you've never seen before, I find that interesting. It's like, well, a wonder can be something amazing and beautiful, as well as it can be something very scary and, problematic. So it's like he's repeating what he's already done again, but this agreement, this pact, this covenant, he's asking, us as his Jewish people to share that with the world and to practice that so that, we can reunite with God. That's just my feelings and my thoughts. And I don't have a very good connection, so it works better for me auditorily if I don't use my video. But that's what I'm thinking.
You came through loud and clear, and you did a good one.
Agreed.
Any other comments? Yes, Rabbi Mary.
Well,
Rabbi Mary, Suzanne had her hand up first before, and then,
okay,
and then you, and then back to Dawn.
Suzanne, please.
Suzanne.
What I see here is God has provided the conditions of this covenant. So on his end, he's going to do all these great things for the Israelites. And what the Israelites have to do is worship no other God, and they have to destroy idols and things like that. And if they do their part, God does his part. Well, actually, I don't really see any if-then statements here. God's part is, essentially, he said he'll prosper them. And look at what has happened with Israel since everyone was gathered back into the land in 1948. I mean, Israel went from essentially a barren desert, and it's fruitful and just so many wonderful things have happened with that, and it's marvelous. How could, in my opinion, only God on the side of Israel could have made that happen, in my opinion. But their job is to make sure that their people don't go after any other gods. That's their job. And unfortunately, as we learn through the rest of the Old Testament, I mean, there have been trials with gods and idols and such. And when those things go on, Israel does not prosper.
Agree. Those are good points you're making. Okay, now there are more hands up now. Rabbi Mary, you're next, then Dawn, then Amy, and I think Gail, did you have your hand up again too? Okay.
You want to know about the future? In the future, God does the same thing. Just kill a lot of people because they sin. And the sin is, in Hebrew, we call the 10 Commandments, we call them Luchot Abrit, the tablets of, how did you say, Brit, of
the covenant.
The promise, the covenant. We call it the death of the covenant. So there is a Brit there is a Brit Milah, there is a lot of Britot. And in the future, they do really stuff that they deserve, well, maybe not, that they're going to be punished very severely.
Right. Good points. Yes, Don.
Thank you, Marty. I'm going to refer back to Rabbi Mary and ask what the Hebrew meaning of marvels is, what the word is, and the connotations of marvels.
Marble?
Marvel. V.
Marvel,
V is in Victor.
Yeah, my English copy says that.
You mean like miraculous?
Well, my English translation says, God says, I will do marvels for my people. I'm just wondering
Yeah, like
what meaning that has in Hebrew.
it's nisim. It's things that are like miracles. It's going to show things that human beings cannot do. Go to Hanukkah, and in Hanukkah, the lamp lasted 8 days, just exactly what it needed to do. It's miracles that happen. The manna, the things that, you know, the fire that comes, and these are miracles to show how little and small and insignificant we are. That's my, and it could be different, but it's Nisim. I'll check again. Go ahead, Marty.
Okay, now I think Amy had her hand up and then back to Gail.
Well, we were talking about not worshiping idols and not worshiping any other gods except Hashem. But we're in danger right now of doing exactly that. We look at Hollywood stars, we look at athletes, we elevate people to such an extent that sometimes God gets lost in the midst of what we focus on.
Good point. Good point. What you just said reminds me of the story of Babel. Okay.
Yeah, Don, it's
yeah,
the word niflaot. It's miracles. Nisim v'niflaot, both words go there. And niflaot is really, it's above normal things. And normal is the regular nature and human beings.
Thank you.
Gail?
I kind of, it's the question, is God, why does God, or does he feel that it's necessary to prove himself by doing these miracles or these wonders? Why does, it's like saying, I'm going to prove to you I'm all powerful. Is that really necessary? I mean,
to those people,
it seems that, well, it does seem that whenever they go astray, he has to do this in some way again.
Okay, so then my next question is, they required, quote, miracles or wonders to prove that there was a God, right? Is that what's lacking today? We don't have proof of miracles?
Yet maybe there.
Or do people still need miracles, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
well,
but they're
Dave,
short-lived.
go to, what's a miracle for you?
Yeah,
I've never seen any personally, but.
Oh, yes, you did. Yes, you did.
What?
Because all of us see miracles in things that we can say, oh, what a miracle. My son came to Tucson. There will be a miracle for me. Something that you are not expecting.
Right.
No, but I'm talking about God making miracles. You know, and you say, okay, that's obviously a sign from God that, you know, whatever.
No, I can define it that way. Amy, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh,
okay.
that's okay, Mary.
Go ahead, Amy.
In response to Gail's question, just like the golden calf, we often look for something tangible to grasp in our faith. And many places of worship will have symbols, whether it's a crucifix or a cross or a Buddha statue or something that people can look at and focus on. And we don't have God in the form of a golden calf or a symbol.
Anything.
Well, I have to take issue what you said about Buddha statue. That's not a religious symbol. That's just a thing to center you, but it's not a religious symbol.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Yeah.
Well, to most Buddhists, that is not, but okay, no.
Okay. I was just using it as an example that most religions have something that they focus on, and God may have felt he needed to perform miracles to reinforce his ability as being supreme, all-knowing, all-seeing, ever-present to his people.
I guess my question though is why do we feel miracles are necessary? Maybe I'm not phrasing this right.
Well, do we feel that way?
Almost every religion, and that includes Buddhism, if you go back into some of the stories, they somehow have to have some kind of a miraculous event to prove themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why that is.
Well, it's a matter of, do you think God feels it's necessary or that we feel it's necessary?
That is the right question. That is the right question. Okay. It's an excellent point. Michael, you're on. And then
Okay.
David.
All right. I believe that Betty and I have witnessed a miracle. And I thank God when I light my Friday night candles for this. It's been about 5 to 6 years. When we were in Maui, we parked in a restaurant, in a parking lot of a restaurant where you have a gate that goes up and down. And you put a ticket in or money and the gate opens and you go. Well, Betty was driving. And she was a little far from where we put the validated ticket. So that bar goes up. And what happened was she accidentally hit the gas pedal as that thing went up. And she couldn't get her foot off the gas of the car. And in front of us was 4 lanes of traffic. And she went through all that traffic. The cars backed up and there was one lane that was open, but she went, and I said, I was already thinking, what are we going to do? Because there's going to be an accident. And there was a clear path all of a sudden. And I was shaking, she was shaking, and it was a miracle. So it has to make some sense to, when you use the word miracle, in my opinion, it has to be reasonable. And that was a miracle because we were very, very shaken. And when we stopped across the way in a path and that was empty. There were no cars parked. So all of that was unbelievable. It was just unbelievable. And I was just shaken. We stood there for 20 minutes and we didn't move. And we were very thankful for that miracle. Had to be. Because if there was 1 lane of cars, okay, but there was 4 lanes that were cleared. And so that was, I'm actually a little bit shaken up now talking about it.
Okay. Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah,
Sure.
so, I mean, since you brought that up, I just had to put that in there.
So there are multiple ways that we can see miracles and or hear about them. But I think it is, as Amy points out, it's a condition of being human.
Well, it's the condition of being human and not being able to do certain things.
Right.
Nisim and niflaot are abstract nouns. And you need an action that is not expected, like crossing the 4 lanes, that you
Mhm.
are going to call this is a miracle. It's a miracle that this cake came out right when I forgot the sugar. So I'm going to use it in a very simplistic way, but you don't expect, and it happens. So I can say, oh, God did that. But
That's right. David, David's going to address one of his miracles.
Yeah, it's not really so much a miracle, except that I get up and I breathe in and I breathe out. It's the biggest miracle of all, and that I was blessed with Wendy for 30 years. However, I wanted to say something about something that I think some of us have been maybe forgetting or leaving aside. One of the things that is mentioned in the passage we just are studying is the concept of jealousy. And God says this right in the Ten Commandments.
Mhm.
I am a jealous God. And here again with the golden calf, he's saying, I'm jealous. And it's almost as if we as human beings are told that jealousy is not a good thing. It is, I don't know if it's a sin, but it's not an ideal thing for us to have. However, God himself admits that I am a jealous God. And so I imagine the people reading this are saying, okay, look, we're not allowed to be jealous, but you are. What are you trying to say? And God's trying to say, live with it. I'm God.
Okay. Okay. That's a good way of putting it. Yes, Michael.
You know,
And then Suzanne.
I am a jealous God. He doesn't say I'm an envious God. There's a difference there. Not supposed to be envious. You can be jealous, but envious is a something that we Jews normally, at least the way I was taught, should stay away from. And I was wondering, what is the Hebrew for jealous? What is that?
kanai.
Is it the same meaning?
It's mekane, even in modern Hebrew. Now, the shoresh, the root of the word kano to these days, it means I bought it for me. Kaniti is I bought it. So I think that the idea is, this is my idea. You do this and this and this. And if you do all those things, I'm very jealous. I'm very envious, and I don't like it.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
you're saying the two words jealous and envious are equal terms.
As far as I can say, I might be wrong and I needed to check. But if I spoke Hebrew today, is kanai. Ani mekane to my brother. Ani mekane, those that have a younger car. I don't know. It's very, for me, it's very close.
Okay.
I need to check.
I find the whole thing
All right.
kind of.
All right.
I find that really, personally, that's a little bit odd. I'm a jealous God. God doesn't have to be jealous of anything. I mean, it's just that the way that I see it.
Okay.
Why do you accept when he says a charitable God? Why do you accept when we say it's a loving God? Why do you accept all the qualities that we give to God, and this one you don't like?
Just the thought of being a jealous, the thought of God being jealous. It's just that that particular word just bothers me, I guess.
Okay. Suzanne
Okay.
and then Amy.
Excuse me. I personally am not bothered by God saying he's a jealous God. He's trying in my view, he's trying to drive home the point that he's the creator.
Yes.
He made heaven and earth. He made all of us. And he's the one with the power, not these other gods. I believe are real beings, not human, but part of other beings that he created in heaven. And actually, I believe they were part of the divine council, but that's like a whole other discussion. And he's trying to underscore that he's the one with the power and he can do these things, not these other, well, Elohim. So, and I think that we all have somewhere along the way in our lives have either come up with an idea at work or made some creative thing or something where somebody else has tried to take credit for it. And I mean, that has happened to me more than once, and it pissed me off. Sometimes I was in a position to do something about it, and sometimes I wasn't. And in one case in particular, I had a boss who figured out that somebody else was stealing my thunder, and he came to the rescue, thankfully, because I was not in a position to do it. And so I have no problem with God saying he's jealous. He's just trying to underscore the situation and put things in terms that the Israelites can understand. You know,
Okay.
steals what you're creating and gives credit to someone else. I mean, that's going to piss you off. It's going to make you jealous. So to me, he's just putting things in terms that they can understand.
Good points. Amy.
Well, in response to Michael's question about jealousy, we know that God also becomes angry, and he's demonstrated that. And since we're made in the image of God, to me, it's perfectly natural that he displays some of the emotions that we occasionally deal with.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's all I meant to say.
Good point. Good point.
Yeah,
Yes.
I agree.
Rabbi Mary.
Okay, as you were talking, another, the word kana, what we translated envious or jealous, is fanatic. And if you recall in history, there were two groups in old Israel. One was the Isaim, or maybe in English, Isaim or Isaim, and the Canaim, and those that are jealous. And when you are jealous, you take the word per se. You don't move from the word like an Orthodox extreme. So that word comes to express what we say fanatic, that goes to the very, very extreme. They want to hold that. I'm going to check what it's the word in English, because these are two groups. And I think one of the groups is the one that we found the scrolls in the desert, that they were those that wrote it. So I need to check that.
Are you so you're thinking of the Essenes?
Yes. And the other group was Canaim.
Pharisees, right. Okay. Good points. Good points. So God is going to do some things here. And we'll finish up with verse 11. And he's going to drive out it before you, the Amorites, Canaanites, Hittites, Perizzites, Hivites and Jebusites. So God is saying that he will do all of those things. So, so part of this is if you really want me to do all these things for you, you got to believe. And the roots of your belief are the 10 Commandments, because that's what we've been dealing with for a long time. And that is those are your core values. Believe in those, you'll believe in me. And that's going to come up in another discussion later on as we see how the story evolves. Okay? And we will hear that that as long as you believe and you do the mitzvot, that strengthens God. And that's all I'm going to say. But you'll hear those words come up in the future. Not in exactly those words, but sort of I'm paraphrasing some of it. Anyway, this is where we'll stop today, and we'll come back next week. We'll pick up with verse 12. Okay, because this is going to be an issue that comes up again and again throughout Jewish history. So we'll stop here for this week. Yes, Michael. Michael, you're muted.
Yeah, you're stopping at this point. I wanted to get something in that I had talked about earlier in the session, and that was
okay. Go ahead, and we'll
yeah.
finish up with that.
Okay, and so I wanted to mention I didn't want to carry on anymore, take up any time with the Torah study, but I mentioned up at Liberty, New York, I would see all the stars as a teenager. I think Don was mentioning, and I saw all these stars up there. The other thing that I wanted to mention about that is that the fascination is with illumination. All those stars are illuminated by the sun. You can't look into the sun, but what's so fantastic about the nighttime in the sky, you can look at that and it's beautiful because it's all illuminated. It doesn't burn your eye. And so that's where I also got the idea when I did my consulting for different things, helping people build and put together certain types of venues, such as restaurants and clubs and theaters and that type of thing.
Okay. I know David has his hands up, and I know why. David, go ahead. And make it brief, because we're right up on the 12 o'clock mark.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Michael. That was a very good comment, except that the stars are self-luminous. The planets are not, but the stars are. What I would like to announce is that this afternoon I will be at Starizona doing a book signing for my new children's book from 2 o'clock until 5 o'clock, and you are all invited.
Thank you. Thank you.